I'm Nancy Phillips. I lived in this house for 11 years. The house is very historic. It's been here since the 1870s. It actually has a name. It's called Shelter Cove. I've always felt that there was some other presence in the house that went beyond just us living here. And so sometimes late at night on the third floor, I would hear footsteps, running footsteps. Regarding what's in my back garden, there have been many families and many experiences in this neighborhood, and in fact the only murder that we know of was just a few doors down. And the property had many mysteries to it, and when we bought the place, we were shown kind of a map of the back garden, and there was a place that indicated that there was something underground. So we excavated it.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Oh my God.
Okay, yikes. Okay, there we go. Holy shit. Look at that.
Don't go any further.
Awesome or what? Right, yeah.
Now we need a ladder. Yeah. Do we have a ladder?
Julie's like the coolest chick in the world. Give me that shit.
Yeah.
This is not, an aqueduct where you're letting water in or anything like that. This is literally a cistern in the ground.
Okay.
That is amazing. So you can only wonder what, you use something like this for.
Maybe to hide people. There's a history of the Underground Railroad here in Nyack, the slaves escaping during the Civil War came through here, and even after the war, escaping slaves came through Nyack.
If you were going to hide somebody or something, this would be the perfect spot to do it.
Yeah.
Hello, is anybody down here curious about what it is that we're doing here today? We just unearthed something that probably hasn't been opened in a very long time. I don't know if this is true. Did you hide here? Did anyone hide here?
Please feel free to talk to us. Again, I'm Cody, this is Ken. We would love to have the opportunity just to have a few words with you, if you could spare the time.
I'm not even sure if anybody is down here or even cares, but we know that a lot of things have happened on the property, so kind of trying to tie it all together.
I'm actually getting a higher spike when I go closer to the walls here.
You're absolutely right, I am too. But this is the first time this has been uncovered in a very, very long time, and we were really amazed at what we saw down here. Did you just hear somebody walking?
It did sound like that, didn't it?
Is anybody up there walking around?
Maybe when my time is done, I'll come back to Shelter Cove. I'll stay here for centuries, for eternity.
That's pretty much one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
We come with the utmost respect for you and this house and the people that live here.
If we are making you nervous because you don't know who we are and the owners aren't around, if you're possibly in another room and you can hear me, could you make a noise just to say, hey, you know, where you are? Again, you won't scare us.
Because obviously you're looking at a place in the mid-1700s that you moved into.
And it was interesting to us because we found that the person who sold us the house had done a lot of research herself, including turning over a deed from a British major who supposedly purchased the house after the Revolution. This was found by the former owner of the house. So this dates back to 1789.
That's fascinating.
This is the wall that, when we moved in, the little dachshund dogs that you saw in the photo would sit and bark at. Looking at this wall. I'm not talking the first week. I'm not talking about the second week. I'm talking about 12 years
Of barking
at that wall at the oddest time of day or evening.
Prevailing theory is maybe they see or perceive things that we don't, so.
Could be.
The dog just jumped. The dog just jumped.
It's the tail. They wagging their tail?
Now, why did he get up and then all of a sudden it starts? The knocking's happening.
Yeah, right on the floor. Just stopped.
The dog jumped and then it started.
I'm sorry, I ruined everything.
Sure,
No.
listen. Just did it.
Yeah.
Hear it?
What was that?
So on a count of 3, could you just make that wind chime make that noise? 1, 2, 3.
When I bought this house, it was on an early ghost tour for the Rockland County Historical Society several years after we purchased it.
I did not know that.
And one of the things that the main reason that they put it on the ghost tour was because Claudius Smith, the bandit of the Ramapos from the 1700s, cattle thief, horse wrangler, who was a descendant of John Smith, I think either his son or nephew, who was a bad guy, came through this house and kidnapped the young girl from upstairs and hid her up in the Ramapo.
She was 18 years old at the time, and my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there was a relationship there because she went willingly.
Hugh Phillips, I've lived in here since July 2012. Have I seen any paranormal experiences here? Yes. I have seen numerous things out of the side of my eye. Last week I saw a woman dressed in white in my room sitting on a bench. I saw a baby flying through the air. I was half asleep, so maybe it was a dream. I don't know exactly what it was, but I've seen many things like that, and nearly everyone who's stayed here has said that they've seen that, things like that. You know, unexplained noises, very strange noises, seeing some kinds of apparitions and things like that. It's so I don't know entirely what to make of that.
Well, we're here at Strawtown Road, in West Nyack at the site of an old grist mill that was here. And we'd like to tell you the story of the last witch trial that was held in the state of New York and maybe in the entire country. It involves a woman named Jane Caniff.
We have a lady who's not our blood in this town that's wearing colors and having weird haircuts.
So to sum it all up, a witch trial takes
witch trial.
place. And this is what the citizens in this area came up with. They took her to this mill that is just outside this building that we're in, and they had two very large scales. So they took a brass-bound Bible on one scale, and they placed Jane on the other end. If Jane did not weigh as much as the Bible, she was therefore a witch. They put the Bible down and everybody gathered and Jane stepped on the scale and immediately the Bible, they described it as
it went right through the roof.
Went right through the roof to heaven or something like that. Part of this that is really kind of disturbing is the idea that had they come up with something different for this woman, she would have been hung in 1816 that something like this still happened. But it was the last witch trial in the state of New York, right here, and we're at the site of it. And as I said, maybe even the entire country at that point.
Who lived in here since the building of it in the 1700s? There's gaps.
It's the kind of place with its history and background that maybe there's something or somebody who just decided they're going to hang around a little bit longer. We'll see.
Weird. It looked like, like somebody was standing here like this. I thought he was just standing out of the way so we could film it. That's strange. In the shadow blocking out the light of a guy. Blocking out the light coming through the window.
He's like, is Ken over there? He goes, I hope so.
I
I'm
thought
like,
you were standing over there letting us film.
Get out of here.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Like the light's coming through the window,
window.
shining on the floor. And you'd see the silhouette of a guy standing there. And the EMF levels spiked at one point. And we were in an area that none of the wiring was...
Yeah, nothing's even hooked up there yet.
So, and it was fine, and then all of a sudden it got a good rise.
I don't really believe in ghosts, so I have to conclude that I'm kind of imagining things. But, you know, it's a weird place. There's not many places have witch trials, and where not many places are 200 years old, and not many places you see what you think are ghosts at the time of. So, you know, I don't know, but I don't believe in ghosts, and I'm sticking to that.
The heck is it? There's like...
What do you get?
It's like a floating EMF field right here. And like if I go right here, it's up, right here it's down, right here it's gone.
Trace the wires.
So there's this one. This one's definitely giving off something. But I lose it right here. And then it comes back right, and actually now it's gone. So I don't know what that was.
I'm Bob Massiello. I live on 26 Madison Avenue, Garnerville, New York. And I bought this house in '94 and realized that it goes back to the 18th century. And then after doing further research, I realized that it's 3 houses enveloped into one house. And what drew me to this house was that it had some historical significance. And then as I was doing the research, I realized that it's Suffern's house. And Suffern sold it to his son, John I. Suffern, in 1791. I was attentive to the fact that, okay, there's some type of spirits that I'm sharing the house with, and obviously it was probably their house. I mean, this was around during the Revolutionary War, it was around during the Civil War, and I understand it was a military headquarters during the Civil War. So I do have some shackles in the basement that are handmade by a blacksmith that are pounded into the stone wall. So the story I heard was that the scouts that came, the Confederate soldiers that came up this far were imprisoned in the basement. So who knows of who died here or on the property.
About 30 or 45 seconds ago, right? I think, Cody, before you asked that last question, I thought I heard a female audible, and they're pretty quiet upstairs, so I'm just, maybe about a minute ago, just see if you heard anything.
From over here?
No, very distant, but it sounded like a female, like a higher pitched voice.
I did have one tenant downstairs. She was my first tenant. She was livid one day, and she said to me, "We can't live here any longer." She said, "Things are getting lost all the time or hidden. The blinds were actually moving." She told me that during the night, there was a figure standing in her doorway, all black cape, and her eyes were open, and she immediately shut her eyes, and she asked me the next day, and when she woke up, it was gone. And then she had, the toys were moving. And she said day after day, she would watch the toys move from one side of the room to the other, and she said she had enough. She's not gonna stay in the same house. So we lost those tenants.
If there's somebody in here right now that likes to check on the tenants and you wander between the two buildings, hello to you. Do you want to come in and say something?
One Cordio. Yeah, it might be someone outside, but I definitely heard that.
One day, there was an invitation from 1928 for a dinner dance. And the invitation was for me and my wife. But not with our names on it, it was someone else. And that just was on the floor. And I could show you that invitation. It was handwritten, and it was on a dirt floor in the middle of the floor where I've been working and walking through so many times. And I don't know where it came from. It couldn't have fallen out of the floorboards. It just appeared on the floor one day.
So you found this in the basement?
That was probably when Goodman
with like no real reason that it should be there. It's just
Right.
nothing he'd ever seen before.
Right, because he was working in the house. He lived here 6 months. He's going upstairs, downstairs, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the basement, that just happened to be there.
We're sitting here because the gentleman who owns the house, his name is Bob. He said that he feels that there may be someone here.
The owner now, claimed to us that someone had sat on the couch. There were impressions, but no one was sitting there. If that person's here, we'd like to talk to you. Can you hear something?
Mm-hmm.
It was like almost like a low hum from an old radio.
Yep. I heard more than that thing, so.
Okay, well that's what I got out of it, but yeah, I think he's got someone in this room that might have been attached to the oldest part of the house that we're in. Just looking at all the antiques in here, he might have brought something else in.
Possibly.
That's going into the tenant's part of the house.
Once I got to this house, I asked the previous owner, are there any ghosts in the house? And he turned and he smiled and he looked at me and he said, "There's happy ghosts."
My name is Carolyn Brewer. We live in Suffern, New York. We began to see lights and things twinkling, especially in this room and by the front door. Like we'd be sitting here and I would see lights shimmering. Now my husband is the biggest experiencer in the house. He's a hardcore skeptic. Even if you ask him now, he'll admit that he has seen and heard these things, but he'll say, "I don't know that it's a ghost, it's just, I don't know what's happening."
I have heard voices downstairs for the last, 5-10 years. Basically, I was just coming down the flight of stairs. Carolyn was behind me, and we were talking, and I saw what looked like one of the children pretty quickly run out of my room. And it kind of made sense because they're not supposed to be in my room by themselves or whatever, and then I came around the bottom of the stairs and I looked around the corner, nothing there.
And all the kids
and you
were
were
sleeping.
behind me, and I was like, wow. Curious to see if they find anything. but I have really no big expectations.
Mark out here just...
I heard that. I don't know if that was upstairs.
Not sure.
Because it was kind of more of a singing.
Right.
Here. Whoa. Wow. Put that close to the tri-field code.
Get low to the ground.
It does.
Wow, it's getting louder.
Yeah, because I think if we get a wider shot, it would did you just see that?
These came out. So
No. It was it was female.
Where was Carol?
What session?
I mean, I don't have to listen to it anymore.
Yeah.
What session?
This.
The first time we went down? Bathroom?
This is
or
the second one.
The second one?
Yeah.
They were in the bedroom.
They were in the bedroom.
I think that we got what we came for.
Under my voice, you'll hear a female, and obviously there was no female down there at the time. And your wife were up here, and this is definitely in the room with us because of the range on this. The range on this is about 3 feet, so it was close.
Yeah, that is a room that I actually hear a lot in.
Yeah.
So that would
So
make
it kind of
sense.
follows through with, what you told us, which is like the important thing because it corroborates what's going on, which is that's why we're here today.
I think if we get a wider shot.
Yeah, I heard it.
I'm gonna rewind it again.
Okay.
I think if we get a wider shot.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know.
We're going to run it through the sound programs that we have, and we're not going to alter it, but we're going to just basically amp it up. There shouldn't be a voice there, and there are 2 males there.
Yeah.
Carolyn is the only female in this house, and she's nowhere around at the time.
I think if we get a wider shot, I think if we get a wider shot,
It's safe to say
Tip of
this
the
is one of
iceberg
those
stuff.
places, we visited a lot of places that George Washington's spirit, George Washington came in, used the washroom,
Right.
and loved it so much that he decided to spend the rest of eternity here. But this is one of those places that all of these people, so significant and prominent in the history of this country, come through these doors.
Yeah, and made history here.
Well, good morning. We're here in Tappan, New York at the 76 house, and we're here with its owner, Robert Norton. And Robert, this is obviously a very historically significant place. Tell us a little bit about what went on under its roof here over the years.
Yeah, we're really proud of this old tavern. It's the oldest tavern in America. This is probably the oldest existing structure that has been publicly used. We saw the first Declaration of Independence here, which is called the Orangetown Resolutions.
Really?
The execution of Major John Andre, significant turning point in the War of Independence. He actually stayed in this room that we're actually sitting in. He freely admitted to being a spy, eventually executed by hanging. And 3 years later, 1783, Washington meets with Sir Guy Carleton in our front dining room and receives the plans of the British evacuation and the recognition by the English that America is free and independent of Great Britain. If anything is going to have something left over that wants to touch the living from the other side, it would be here. We've had literally books written about Table 2. The place would be 85 degrees in the dining room and the woman would sit down and be like, I'm freezing. In the front room we have very fragile glass lanterns and there's nothing to shake this building. So these little delicate candelabras would fall on the floor up front. We'd be having a waiter meeting over here and up front we'd hear thunk, 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 and silverware falling on the floor. You go up there, the glass never broke, you put it back on the table, just reset the table, but it was like someone was playing with us. For years this went on. The little corner, table 11, constantly myself and the whole staff sees people sitting in the corner. We have like a joke that we make with people, that like if you're sitting in table 11 and you don't get good service, it's because we don't really think you're sitting there.
We're so used to going over there and
we had a great wedding here. The
bride and groom had a super time. It was such a great wedding that even the photographer stayed late. And a few days after the wedding, I get a call from the bride, and she's very happy about the wedding, but clearly there's something that's bugging her. And I'm like, so what's bugging you? I can hear like you're not like gushing like I thought you would. And she's like, well, I have this one picture, and it's my favorite picture of all the bunch, and it's like after the wedding, and there's this big woman that's photobombing us in the picture, and I'm kind of pissed because, you know, we had the whole restaurant to ourselves, and this, I don't know this person in this yellow dress.
Understandable, sure.
And like, why'd you let her in? And I'm like, does the person have a head? And she looks closer at the picture, and she starts screaming into the phone. She's like, oh my God, I love this picture now. I'm like, yeah, you got a picture of the ghost.
For a different reason.
Exactly.
That's the first question,
Right.
is like, do they have a head?
I mean, it's such history here, and it's no wonder why you really do get these feelings and stories of you know, such a variety.
It's got the vibe, that's for sure.
Amazing energy.